The time is just gone 10 minutes past 9 as you have rejoined us after the news. We are staying in the company of our Salam Media listeners and also our viewers this morning and also One Nation 88.9 FM. Now, July the 15th, which is today, it is clearly a turning point in the history of Turkey or Türkiye as it is now being called. Now, we need to understand as to why it is such a defining moment, why it is a turning point. And we joined on the line this morning, alhamdulillah, by Dr. Mustafa Mheta, who is the Senior Research Fellow, Head of Africa Desk at the Media Review Network. Dr. Mustafa, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me.
Jummah Mubarak, and we trust and hope you're going to be having a wonderful and inspirational Jummah, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jummah Mubarak to you too.
Right, we're talking about Türkiye, we're talking about July the 15th, we're talking about a turning point in the history of Türkiye. Now, we know it has got a very rich history that goes back centuries, hundreds of years, where Turkey obviously was the seat of the Khilafah and in control of the entire Muslim world. And let's just talk about July the 15th. Why is this so relevant, Dr. Mheta?
July 15th has become so relevant on the on the Turkish calendar because it is the day when a nation was almost on the precipice of a coup and losing a lot of blood. There was going to be a lot of blood, shed if it had not, been contained by the people. So hundreds of people, of course, about 250 people were killed as a result of the attempted coup. And ever since, the Turkish government has designated the day, July 15th, as a day of democracy, a day when democracy in their country triumphed over the forces of darkness. So ever since 2015, they've commemorated the day on a yearly basis, trying to put across a message that Turkey is a democracy and that power will not change hands through dubious means like military coup or whatever, but it will change hands through elections. So that's the message that they celebrate every year.
Yes, Dr. Mheta. In fact, I recall that very, very vividly 6 years ago, and it was in the month of Ramadan. It was after Taraweeh, where I personally was informed. It says, this is what's happening in Turkey. Do you know what is happening? And I remember doing an emergency broadcast that night covering the coup, and it was a defining moment. But also, what stood out for me is the will of the people of Turkey, the Turkish nation, in terms of how they actually stood up and millions took to the street that night.
Oh, yes. And the message is seen in the pouring of thousands and thousands of people, on the streets to support um, 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 the government of the day. And people came to the streets, with spoons, with everything, utensils you can think of, trying to put across the message that no, we will not allow power. We will power to be taken in such a way. Why don't you wait for elections and then campaign, and if you win, then you form, the next government. So the people actually fought. This coup was not won by loyalists in the army and of the current government, or from the party of the current president Erdogan. It was won by the people of Turkey who poured into the streets and said, no, you are wasting your time. You can kill us, but we will defend, what we have, and the democracy that we have, we will defend it, and they did just that. So it shocked them. This is why it was not, acceptable. You may recall what happened in our neighbor next, in Zimbabwe, when people felt that the army, felt that no, President Mugabe has, is being used by those who were around him, and he needs to be taken, he needs to be taken out of power peacefully. They started by negotiating with him and things like that. And then the next thing was people pouring into the streets and, showing him that, no, we don't want, what is happening now. You have done a lot as a leader, as an independence leader. Please, go in peace, and a peaceful transition, then, happen. So I see here the power of people in that demo. What went on in Turkey.
Yes, and I think also, if my memory serves me right, at that point in time, people had thought that President Erdogan had basically fled the country, and in fact, which he didn't. And also, he had actually made this call to the people, and the people listened. Now, when one compares what had taken place in Turkey in 2016 and looking at the power of the people, as you speak about, in terms of protecting a democracy and protecting their democracy. If we see what has happened in Egypt, for instance, where we had a coup where President Mohamed Morsi was taken out, and obviously we did not see a similar reaction. There were sporadic protests from the people of Egypt, but not as widespread as what has taken place in Turkey. And as a result, we know what has happened. Sadly, we've seen subsequently the imprisonment of Mohamed Morsi, and then he was, I would say, he was murdered, he was assassinated, rather than saying that he was found guilty and killed by the Egyptian government. And here we've seen a military takeover by means of a coup. So, there again, I think Turkey would have given the people of Egypt a great lesson as far as the power of people is concerned, in terms of protecting their democracy. And also at the same time, when you find credible leaders like Mohamed Morsi, and, this in itself is a huge lesson. We've seen what has happened in Pakistan recently with the removal of Imran Khan in the guise of democracy, but was a coup in every sense of the word.
Yes, it's very, very true, my brother, what you're saying. If we look at these scenarios that you have just mentioned, yeah, there is a difference. The people of Turkey wanted, their democracy, to prevail, and it is the people who went out there. And remember, not everyone, even in the army, in the defense forces of Turkey, had supported what was going to happen. It was a few people within those institutions that acted upon, these were the so-called loyalists of the Hizmet movement. And these guys are the ones, who actually, rose in those circles. But there were pockets of, resistance, and it was not, 100%, that everyone, the defense forces were after, removing the president. So the difference there is that in Egypt, the problem in Egypt is the army, the whole defense forces of the country thought, with instigation, of course, we know with instigations from the powers, the powers that be in this world, they were told, to not to accept a democratic, transition that had happened, and they were told, no, remove this president. And they acted upon that because the institution of the defense institution in Egypt is completely different. This is a scenario where you have an army controlled by a power, and they are told that if you don't do this, then we won't give you all these monies, we won't empower you. So what has happened in Egypt is there's a defense force that has been empowered by a superpower for their own reasons. And similarly, to Pakistan, if you look at Pakistan, that army there in Pakistan is not controlled from Pakistan. That army is controlled from elsewhere. And this is why they made it possible, and they actually laid the ground, for the removal of Imran Khan. And it was a pity that they keep on going, but the the similarities between the Pakistan Defense Forces and the Egyptian Defense Forces is very similar, because both these armies are controlled from elsewhere and not, by the commander in chief of the defense forces, who should be, in the case of Pakistan, the the prime minister, an elected civilian official. That's the difference.
Well, definitely. And also the difference is where we see a person like President Erdogan, who had taken full control of the military and a huge influence as far as the military is concerned, to make absolutely sure that he kept the military by his side.
Yes. It was, yeah. He had, he exercised a lot of influence, definitely, on the defense forces, the Turkish defense forces, because he's the commander in chief, and the constitution empowers him to do just that, and he exercised, his constitutional right as a president of Turkey. So we are saying there is definitely a lot of differences between his situation and that of Egypt and Pakistan.
Well, Dr. Mehta, I must say it's been an absolute pleasure as always engaging with you, getting your views, getting your analysis. And we do appreciate you always taking time out talking to us here on Salam Media. We wish you all the best. And once again, have yourself a great Jummah, inshallah. And Allah grant you safety. Allah keep you well. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you, Brother Wadi. Thank you very much.
Dr. Mustafa Mheta, Senior Research Fellow, Head of Africa Desk at the Media Review Network. July the 15th, a turning point in Turkey's history. And I think many of us will still remember the events that had unfolded. And it was in the month of Ramadan. It was after the Tarawih Salah here in South Africa, when we were glued to what was unfolding in Turkey that particular night. The time is just gone 9:25. We come back. We still have got a lot more to discuss. And when we come back, we'll be joined by Claire Bidwell. We'll be talking about Martyrs' Day or no Martyrs' Day being observed for the last 3 years in Kashmir.